Hi, my name is Paul Switek. I've been a drug and alcohol prevention social worker since 1987. I'll be in my 40th year in 2027, and I'd like to share my experiences and knowledge with you here in this slideshow. This slideshow is a part of a quiz that you can take 20 questions for teenagers, for anyone in the family to take it to increase your knowledge around this idea of vaping and what's going on. And I hope you find it helpful. I want you to think about this idea to get started. In 1964, in the United States, 42% of Americans smoked cigarettes. Nobody knew at the time that there were 7,000 chemicals in a burning cigarette. Nobody knew that 70 of those chemicals were cancer causing. But by 2026, people began to learn a lot more, and look what happened. The numbers went down. Only 11% of Americans smoke cigarettes. That's a huge decline in people buying and using cigarettes. And something must have happened, right? What was it? What happened to people that made them stop? Well, if you went back to your great grandmother's living room in 1952, you might find this magazine, Reader's Digest. It seemed like everybody subscribed to it. And there was an article in 1952 in November entitled Cancer by the Carton. And it was the first time Americans were exposed to the idea that maybe cigarette smoking was not as healthy as it was made out to be. In 1964, the Surgeon General of the United States came out with a definitive statement that cigarette smoking causes cancer and was addictive and unhealthy. And people's awareness began to go up. They began to be aware of the truth. And before that, they were not really allowed to even know the truth. The truth was that cigarette smoking was not okay. And once people began to learn that, they learned that it was addictive, they began to make choices for themselves for the first time. People thought, well, if cigarette smoking causes cancer, I don't want to die from cancer. Even still, think about this. There are 480,000 annual deaths in 2026 from the effects of smoking cigarettes in our country. So some of that's caused by heart disease, heart attacks, stroke, cancer. So it still has affected us, but the numbers are going down. They're going the right way. Now, the first question I have you ask when it comes to vaping or any kind of drug use is, how important is the brain? Because all drugs go to the brain. That's where the action happens. It goes into your bloodstream, but it goes into your brain. So when you use a mood-altering chemical, it releases the chemical dopamine in your brain. And dopamine is a chemical that just makes you feel good. It gives you that sense of pleasure when you do something. Now, here's my formula. The degree to which you feel pleasure with something is the same degree to which you want to repeat it. So if the thing you did or the thing you use gave you a feeling of 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, then you'd want to do it again in 8. If it wasn't that great for you, then you probably don't want to do it again, right? The brain is amazing. It controls everything that we do in our lives. And I think we need to take a little time and just think about anything we do physically. All physical functioning is created and controlled by the brain. How we think, our cognitive functioning, is the brain, obviously. Our decision making, which is so important in life, what we decide to do, how we decide to do it, what direction we decide to go, is controlled by the brain. Every emotion you feel in your life, which is so important in feeling healthy and feeling well and feeling good, comes from the brain. It's not coming from your big toe. Your connection with other people is a function of how your brain functions and how their brains function. All your future planning, and future is an important part of our lives. What do you want to do when you get older? I know the kids hear it all the time. But your future planning is affected by how you think about yourself and about the world that you live in. Your brain does that. So your future is determined by your brain. The ability to learn new things is something that pretty much only the human beings can do. I know their animals can do it, but not like we can. Even this right now, you're taking in information. It's all done by the brain and controlled by the brain, which is fantastic. All your five senses, smelling chocolate chip cookies, seeing things, hearing things, all controlled by the brain. And memory, which is very important. We take it for granted. But I'm sure if you thought about it right now, you can probably remember who your first grade teacher was, no matter what age you are listening to this. We have this ability to go back in time, and we don't have to learn our name again every morning. The memory we have is incredible, and it's very, very important. When you look at why do people like to watch sports, or why do people like to play sports, the body is doing amazing things that athletes do, but their brain is really at the core of what they're doing. Athletes train their brains and their bodies in order to become great at their sports. The ability to do arts, our ability to appreciate arts, is what makes life worth living. We would just be robots if everything was all gray and black and white. The artistic world brings color to our lives, and it's one of the best things about being human. And the brain brings that to us. Now, technology and invention, it's incredible to think about. It's all around us in our lives, and it is astounding. We have sent a rocket to the moon and back. But sometimes technology can be on the negative end if we do maybe too much of it. Studies show that the average person in our country is on a screen 8 hours and 30 minutes a day, which is a lot. And of course, you're on one right now. But to find some balance with that is important, and that can also be addictive. Young people ask me, why should I protect my brain? And I advocate that you should protect your brain. And the reason why is because your brain is the most valuable object that you possess, and the most valuable object you ever will possess. And you only get one that takes you from this point in your life forward. And that's true for all of us. Question 2. What are the different ways drugs get to the body, the drug delivers into the brain, and what is the fastest way drugs get to the brain? Now, the transdermal patch has the drug in it. It leaches into the skin, into the blood vessels very slowly, and yes, you get the drug through the transdermal patch. Pills are a slower way, or a little bit faster than the patch, but they're a slow way. They take like 30 to 45 minutes to go into the stomach, dissolve, go into the small intestine, and then it makes their way into the bloodstream. That method. So drinking will take a little while to feel the effect, but you'll feel the effect. Cocaine, for example, that is snorted takes about 10 to 20 minutes to fully get into the brain. So the nasal passages have blood vessels in them, and the blood vessels absorb the drug, and then it goes into the brain that way. Intravenous, when somebody uses a needle to inject something into their bloodstream, into their veins, it goes into the blood pretty much immediately, but it takes a little while to circulate through, seconds, and then it makes its way into the brain. But smoking is the fastest way, or vaping is the fastest way. When a person breathes, whatever it is, and in that substance goes into the lungs, it goes into the bloodstream very quickly, and then it makes its way into the brain. You're doing it right now. You're breathing oxygen in from the air around you, and it goes into your bloodstream and it goes into your brain. If you don't get oxygen through the blood in 10 minutes, you will die. So it's a survival mechanism that breathing in a substance makes its way into the bloodstream quickly. And that's why smoking is the fastest. So when people vape nicotine, it is the fastest way to get nicotine into the system. A pill would be much slower, and a patch would be much slower than that. Question 3, nicotine is measured in milligrams. So how much nicotine has been put into a cigarette, when we think about that, to make them addictive? And we know they're addictive. Cigarette companies figured out a long time ago how to get the perfect amount of nicotine in the brain so that you'll buy their product over and over again. So the average cigarette has 12 milligrams of nicotine in it. And if you become addicted, I can sell you that product that has 12 milligrams for the rest of your life, and it's good for business, but it's bad for your health. Nicotine devices with vaping deliver 50 milligrams. And this to me is one of the most disturbing things I've seen in my career working with addictions. I work with people in 1990s who started to quit smoking through group therapy and individual therapy at the 12 milligram level. And they had a really, really hard time quitting. And I saw that firsthand. All the products our teens are purchasing now have 50 milligrams. And yes, that's like taking 5 cigarettes, basically wrapping them in masking tape, lighting them all at the same time, and taking a hit off of them. That's a huge amount of nicotine that we have never seen before. And it's the one thing that bothers me the most when I see teens vaping 50 milligrams. And I know 12 is all it takes. Now, there's a concept called the half-life of a drug. So how long does a drug stay in the body before half of that drug is diminished in the body? So a full shot of nicotine taken at 8 a.m. will diminish in half by 10 a.m. So it takes about 2 hours for nicotine, for the half-life of nicotine, to be absorbed into the body and then start to diminish. So by noon, there would be no more nicotine in the system. So it goes a long way. It goes into the brain and stays in the brain for a long time. It's not just a momentary hit that goes away quickly. Now, let's move into some of these questions. Question number 6. What else is in the vape device, or when people use a nicotine device, are there other things in it? And the answer is, oh, yes, there is. Is it the truth? Yes, it is. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. And you just need to be aware of what the truth is and make your choice based on the truth. We know formaldehyde. You've heard that word before, and we all know, yeah, that's embalming fluid, isn't it? Correct. That is formaldehyde is released when a person uses nicotine vapes. What about acetaldehyde? We know it causes cancer. We know it causes respiratory irritation. But what is another use of acetaldehyde? We know it is used in industrial solvents. Think about that. It's in there. Ecrylene is also in there. Ecrylene is toxic to lungs and to lung tissue. It's found in industrial level fertilizers that are spread across fields on a regular basis. It's used in fertilizers, and you're absorbing that into your body. Benzene is absorbed. That's another thing. Benzene causes leukemia and bone marrow damage. But what is the industrial use? Answer: detergents and gasoline production. You are correct if you said that. Think about that. Something that causes leukemia and bone marrow, you're taking in through a vape device, and it's found in detergents and gasoline production. Toluene is another one. It damages the nervous system. It causes memory issues. But did you know that it's found in paint thinner, adhesives, industrial level solvents? That's the truth. I'm not making it up. Ultrafine particles in vape devices are at the same micro level as particles found in diesel exhaust. So it will go deep into your lungs and can create cardiovascular risks. Number 12, keeps going. Nickel, lead, chromium, tin, all these cause cancer and neurological damage. Organ toxicity. But where else do we see this? It's used in heavy metals like nickel, lead, chromium. They cause neurological damage and cancer. So the industrial use, plumbing, batteries, metal coatings, and alloys. Question 13. Juul Company, who got the high nicotine volume game rolling, was recently forced by the courts to pay $500 million to states, $1.3 billion to 1,600 school districts across the country. Why? Were they unfairly targeted? Did they cheat on their taxes? Did they have no idea that kids were buying 50 milligram products? No, they targeted teenagers in their marketing. They knew what they were doing, and they know what they're doing. They full well know what they're doing because they're providing that amount of nicotine to people who will feel the hit and want it again. They've made billions and will continue to as long as people buy their products. Now, people will ask me, what are some signs of addiction? What is this whole thing with addiction? How do you know? How do you see it? My first thought is, let's talk about chocolate cake. If you have ever had that compulsion to have the second piece, the one that's in the background, after you ate the first piece, that would be the feeling of, I need more. I want another one. A little bit of a loss of control. Oh, just give me another little sliver. That mentality is along the lines of addiction. Oh, let me just scroll a little more and a little more. That was at 9:00 at night. Now it's midnight and you just scrolled your way to, it was 9:00 at night. Now it's midnight and you scrolled your 3 hours away, saying you were going to stop after just a little while. That's like the chocolate cake. Now, let me just go back to this one here, which is the triple layer cake, not the double layer cake anymore. The double isn't good enough. You need the triple. You want more. It's not satisfying enough, so you need to use more. That would be a sign that maybe addiction is creeping in. And what if your doctor tells you, hey, you've got some issues with diabetes, it looks like you're a little overweight. Are you eating a lot of cake? And you tell your doctor, yeah, I've been eating a lot of cake. And your doctor says, well, I need for you to cut down. That's a problem. And you just can't do it. You know you should, but you can't. And that would be a sign or a symptom of an addiction developing in the brain. You know it's bad, you can't stop it. So that chocolate cake kind of starts to own you, and you don't own the chocolate cake. And what you'll notice is broccoli does not do this to you. Carrots don't do this to you. You don't think about not having, I got to have 3 more pieces of broccoli and then you have 6. When was the last time anybody did that? There's no dopamine release in broccoli and carrots, but there is in chocolate cake and sugar. And that's why those products can become addictive. Now, have other countries banned vape devices? And the answer is yes. Canada has banned 50 milligram vape devices. Israel and Australia have banned 50 milligram vape devices along with the European Union. Scientists in those countries have determined that 50 milligram devices are unhealthy for young people and teenagers, so they've banned it. You can't get it. Now, if a person is using a mood-altering chemical to make themselves feel better, could you say that that's a form of self-medication? Yes. Listen, the brain has 100 chemicals in it. Dopamine is one. But the brain needs to stay balanced naturally. And if we take something in that immediately makes us feel better, if we take a chemical in, then now you're creating something unnaturally happy or unnaturally what feels good or natural when it's really not. So we can start to self-medicate ourselves on screen time. We can self-medicate ourselves on chocolate. We can start to self-medicate ourselves on nicotine because it produces that dopamine punch. And we're medicating, we're feeling better by the drug or the chemical instead of doing things or thinking things that make us feel better naturally. So the brain is vulnerable to what we would call a hijacking. You're using mood-altering chemicals that take over that brain functioning, and then it's really hard to feel good naturally. If the system's saturated with those outside chemical influences, it can be very difficult to feel balanced normally and naturally. And nicotine can take that away for sure. Now, here's the question I hate to answer, and that is, what are the long-term effects of vaping? And the answer to that is, we don't know. And the answer to that is, as young people are guinea pigs to find out the answer. In 2045, we're going to do the long-term study, the 20-year study, the 30-year study for how long-term high-volume nicotine use affected our youth over a long period of time. And it disturbs me to say that because I know it's going to happen. I can't point to a 20-year study right now because people haven't been vaping 20 years yet. So we don't know what the negative effects will be. But we can guess what they will be, and it's pretty disturbing. When you look at the accumulating effect, something that takes a while to make its impact known. Think about this. If you just had $5 on you right now and you saved it, that'd be great. And let's say every day for 1 year, you save the $5. Well, at the end of the year, that's $1,800 you've got in a shoebox, which is pretty good. That's a lot of money. And that's the accumulating effect. You know, when you fill up your gas tank, and when you get older, you fill up your gas tank, you're going to feel great about it. You're going to feel, oh, the gas is going to last forever. And then somehow it slowly goes down, very slowly. And then you're like, oh, I'm on empty again. I got to fill it up. So that is the accumulation, the slow accumulation. A one use, doing it something one day usually does not result in major problems. If a person smokes a cigarette today, they probably will be okay tomorrow. But if you smoke something daily and use something in that way for a long period of time, it accumulates. If I gave you this glass of water and put in acrolein and toluene and formaldehyde and said, hey, here's, you want this water? Would you drink it? Would you drink it every day? That's kind of what we're talking about here. Maybe if you drank it once, you'd be okay. But what happens if you do it on a regular basis? That is something that can be deceiving because it's like, well, it doesn't bother me. It didn't hurt me today. What did I say? 340,000 people lose their lives early from cigarette smoking back in time, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now, sometimes people wonder, are there signs that you might be addicted? Does it do anything to the brain? If this was a SPECT scan of a healthy brain, you can see the colors there would look good. As a person uses drugs, and you can look at Daniel Amen's studies in this, and his brains look like this. You can see where there's portions of the brain that has stopped functioning, and the brain gets used to the chemical, and the brain adapts to the chemical, and physically you can see in these SPECT scans the effect of the addiction on the brain. Now, what are some signs that you might be addicted to nicotine? And this is a good one. And let's be honest here. If you need to take a hit of a 50 milligram product first thing in the day, that might be a sign that you're getting addicted. I can honestly say I don't vape. And I have never had the thought of waking up and thinking that I've wanted to vape or I might need to vape. It's never crossed my mind because I don't do it. But people who have done it, if you wake up and you think about that first thing in the morning, that's a sign that you could be addicted to the nicotine. Now, even though you know it's not allowed in school and you shouldn't do it, you bring your vape to school. And what's that about? I've never brought a pack of cigarettes into the school. I'm a non-smoker, so of course I wouldn't try to sneak the cigarettes in. But when you know it's something you're not supposed to bring in, why would you have to bring it in or run the risk of bringing it in? It might be that your body and your brain are needing it, so you would take the risk so that you can use it. What about this idea? I'm going to quit someday, right? If you think you might need to quit, well, that's a sign that you're aware of the idea that you might need to shift and change. Have you ever thought about quitting carrots or broccoli? Probably not. Why would we have the thought of, I need to quit too much screen time? Yeah, because it's too much. I need to quit vape. Yeah, because vaping is too much. So when you're using something too much, you kind of instinctively know it and you say, I got to quit. I got to shift. I got to stop. That would be a sign. Urges are also an important thing, which is number 4. If you're feeling urges to use a vape during the day or at night or in the morning, your brain is telling you that you might need it, and you need to pay attention to that. And using more often, developing a tolerance, and I need 3 pieces of cake, one doesn't cut it anymore, right? That is something. Do you use more than you used to when you first started? If you use more, that's a sign that you're tolerating more. And then if you don't use it, you go through withdrawal. You miss it. Your body wants it. I work with some young people who were waking up in the middle of the night to use their vape device, to use a 50 milligram vape device. Why? Because their body was going through withdrawal at 3 o'clock in the morning. They needed the nicotine in their system. And when they got it, they could finally relax and go to sleep. Now, seriously, is nicotine addictive? Is it mildly addictive? Is it kind of addictive? Is it extremely addictive? There's no question in my mind that nicotine is extremely addictive. A 50 milligram product going in on a regular basis, I do not see how a person could not become addictive with regular use over a period of months or years. And some people, they'll do it quicker than others. So yes, it's extremely addictive. And I would say addiction would be inevitable if a person uses on a regular basis with that much nicotine. My last question is an easy one to answer. Name me 3 vape or tobacco companies that have gone out of business in the last 40 years. And the answer is you can't name one. It is a very inexpensive product to put together, a highly addictive product, and put money in the bank. These companies are very good at it. In only 3 years, Juul Corporation sold for $1.3 billion. They sold to a tobacco company, of course, and much of the money came from teenagers and young people buying their products, caught off guard by the power of the addiction. So let's go back to the beginning. In 1964, 42% of the American people smoked cigarettes, and that changed. That dropped to 11% in 2026. Why? Because of awareness of the truth, which enabled people to make a choice to stop something in their life because they didn't want it anymore. And that's the same process we're doing here. The truth is what it is, and I've provided a few things that are true for you to think about, and maybe that can be a motivation to think about quitting, and maybe this is the time to quit, or just to make smart, healthy choices for yourself in your life. And that's not just for teenagers. That's for all of us, all adults. Maybe we are eating too much chocolate cake. Maybe we are doing things that aren't healthy for us. Too much screen time is too much screen time. So all of us are in the same boat. It's not just the teenagers who need to make a change. Adults need to make changes for our own health. And we can do it together as families. It just doesn't have to be one person doing it. We can do this together. That's kind of cool. It's cool to talk about in that way so that the older adults and younger adults are meeting in the middle and we're sharing experiences about some of these things that we all have to reckon with. So I hope that this video provided you some thoughts. This last thought I want to leave you with is it's hard to live a happy life without a healthy brain as the starting point in your life. We need to keep our brains healthy in order to be happy. And it starts with doing healthy things and making healthy choices based on the truth. So I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like to give me a call, feel free to do that. My number is 585-359-5233. Paul Switek. My name is Paul Switek, and I can answer any of your questions and any of your concerns. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this together as a family, maybe, or as an individual. And I hope this helps you answer your quiz and get all the answers right. And these are great things to know for yourself. Thanks so much. Have a great day.